If you work on that end of the bench, then we'll be able to capture all the video. But you will have to speak loudly enough that it's heard over here.
An opportunity for you just to observe what they did. I doubt you've got all this junk parts laying around your place to be able to duplicate this, but we took these motorcycle parts that I had stored upstairs. There's a starter solenoid there. I brought down those multiple starters, and they're going to use those components to build a complete circuit. The circuit has to have a 12-volt power source, which is the jump pack, the remote starter switch in Charles' hand right there, and using jumper wires and the small jumper wires and the big jumper wires. And in the end, what's going to happen here is they're going to have a complete starter circuit laying on a bench that would be identical to the starter circuit actually on a motorcycle. So enjoy. I will put my 2 pence in every once in a while. Pointing out right now, we want to test the solenoid first just to make sure that voltage is going to the starter. We did not know whether that was a working starter or not, so they're going to eliminate a wire between the solenoid and the starter, and then they're going to simply test the solenoid to make sure the voltage is coming through there. So that's what they're debating right now. I think, yeah. My challenge to them right there was, hey, that starter motor's not turning over. Why isn't it turning over? Is the solenoid bad or is the starter bad? So they're going to set up that test now that I thought they were setting up before. But anyway, they're setting up a test now to be able to isolate the starter solenoid from the starter motor to see which component is bad, one or both. So with that, they're going to need a test meter set on DC voltage, and they're going to look for battery voltage at the starter solenoid and at the starter. Sorry about the big head in the way right there, but I'm going to have Danny hold that up to you so you can see it. Alright, you can see battery voltage coming through the starter solenoid. So we're pretty confident at that point that the starter motor is bad and we need to grab another one and start our testing over.
Strike one.
You're out!
Boats and hose. Alright, fire in the hole. You see that, Ross? We got a working starter in that combination now. So 12 volts going to the starter solenoid. The momentary switch or the remote starter switch hooked up to the starter solenoid, and then the battery voltage coming over to the starter, and then ground going back to the battery pack. So we completed the circuit with a couple of gates in there. So one gate being the momentary switch and the other one being the starter solenoid.
Okay, and after you guys observe the numbers on your
Okay, we're using the 400 amp clamp-on amp meter right now, hooked in with our snap-on test meter. So the guys are measuring how many amps this starter motor takes without having a load. So we're looking at 65 amps on that particular starter motor without being installed in a machine, just to spin that starter. That's for you. Dang it, I kind of got a bald spot back there. If you notice there, Ross, we put the amp meter, the amp probe on the ground side of the system. Follow the amperage through on the ground side. We're looking at volt drop, so measuring volt drop through that system and calculating how many connections there are in that system for an allowable volt drop measurement. If you notice Lionel's covering up his nose there, Danny was pretty gassy today.
Okay, so this starter motor, how many volts in that battery? How many volts will this starter use? All of it. Should be. Okay, so if we measure our volt drop then, at the end of the jumper cable, what do you expect to see? 2/10 or less, right? And we got a gauge that. On the other side of the starter relay, what do you expect to see? Okay, what would you expect to see here? We're going to test it and find out. What would you expect to see here? As I fix that circuit. You would expect to see battery voltage. Because it's showing the volt drop. It's showing the drop. So if we have a volt, 1 volt drop on that relay,
Just stay close, Ross, and listen really hard to this volt drop discussion.
we have another 2 minutes drop here. We expect to see that. So if it's even all in here, what do we expect to see? 13. We're reading the drop, the volt drop. Remember, that's all through this positive side. Okay, we're not reading voltage, we're reading volt drop. So it's going to show us the actual voltage that's making it through to that point. The actual
All right, Charles, talk me through the setup, will you?
Well, we took our amp probe here and we clamped around the starter side there. We went sure it was on the 400 amp.
Okay.
And then we hooked it on the volt side here. And then we ran it up to DC volts.
Okay.
And then we want to catch the maximum on there, so we set it to the record final maximum.
Okay.
Now we're going to light it up or just crank it over to see what the maximum is.
All right.
Ready?
If I can breathe, I'll be ready.
Just a minimum.
171 amps. So I think it depends on where you catch it on the stroke of the motor. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And if it fires up right away, I mean, you might have been in the perfect position. Just like doing a decompression, a manual decompression. You all have done that, right? So, all right, good. Good test. What was that high number there?
38.
238. That's a lot. And that's on old Black Betty here. Oh, Black Betty.
112 horsepower Black Betty.
Yeah.